Ask HG, Episode 5, Part 2. Welcome back. More questions on the way, and of course, more answers and enlightenment as we break this series down into 2 parts to make it readily digestible for you. Continuing with the questions. Catherine Positano asks, HG, who inspires you, and if anyone, why? Me, I inspire myself. The Citizen Reporter main channel sub my backup. He or she of the long name. What is your true self? You need to listen to the incidences of information around the creature. Marie Marcy. H.G. Tudor, are your services as an analyst sought out by the courts, doctors, judges, or family members? In other words, are you a medically trained professional? No, I am not a medically trained professional. However, my services are sought out by people who are going through judicial proceedings, and I enable them, because I understand those proceedings and moreover the mind and actions of the individuals that operate within them, particularly obviously the narcissist who is the other party, to enable the party that I'm advising to achieve the best outcome. I regularly advise people dealing with divorce situations, co-parenting issues, the recovery of money, business disputes, defamation actions, and more besides. Anything which has resulted in some kind of formal dispute. And I have saved people's absolute fortunes, both in terms of actual monetary expenditure and in terms of time, energy, effort, and emotion. Rhonda Ann. Hello, HG. Thank you for answering my question last time. You're welcome. The ex-narc husband, who is 70 years old, was constantly looking at pictures and porn sites with young teenage girls. How common is this? Well, there'll be no statistical information, but certain narcissists, particularly those that are somatic, will look at porn sites with young teenage girls. I'm assuming when you say young teenage, you mean below the age of 18. In that instance, of course, there's a lack of boundary recognition, a lack of emotional empathy, a sense of entitlement. And it accords with the use of porn on the internet as described in my book, Sex and the Narcissist. Jackie Edwards. I have a question, HG. What are your thoughts, if you have any on the subject, on the prevalence of narcissists in the BDSM community? A friend told me of it, and it seems to me that the desirable traits in a dominant master can easily provide the targets for an arc in the submissives of that community. Indeed it does, and the BDSM community is prevalent with our kind with regard to our kind. There are many narcissists operating in the BDSM community because, as you rightly point out, that the dom behaviours that are sought out are those which are exhibited often by our kind. And, of course, there will be some of our kind that operate in a submissive role also. Carrie Turner asks, do you think Richard Grannon is a narcissist? I'm asked this repeatedly, and there are many people that have given me information that suggests that he may well be, whoever he is. But I have received emails repeatedly asking me that question and explaining that they believe that he is one. If only I knew who the individual was. Rachel Newkirch. You're very illuminating about narcissistic personality disorder. I thank you. Your thanks is received. And indeed, I am very illuminating because my information is extensive, thorough, and unrivaled. Louise Loveman. As my family inquires about what I'm going to watch on Netflix, there is no rival. It is HG all the way. Thank you, HG. Your content is always greatly received, comprehended, and enjoyed. You're very welcome. I didn't know I was on Netflix. Sounds like I'm going to have to contact the ball-washing bastards that are my lawyers to get them to muscle up. Sounds like that good old HG here is due some royalties, doesn't it? Dear beloved, have you ever watched Bridgerton? Who was the narcissist, Daphne or Simon? Both. Bridgerton, I believe that's currently on Netflix, isn't it? No, I haven't watched it. I might do. The IPPS has been suggesting that it might be watched, but in the small amounts of free time that I have, I've been watching Breaking Bad recently, which is first class. Tom Muggeridge. Every time I see your name, Tom, I'm reminded of Malcolm Muggeridge, the journalist. Just as a little aside there. Two-part question. Okay, a little bit of foreshadowing. You described Trump as an upper-lower, no I didn't, upper-lesser type B narcissist, and Biden as upper-mid-range narcissist. What class would you describe Kamala Harris as? Because let's be honest, there's no denying she's a narcissist. Well, with regard to Kamala Harris, you'd have to utilise the material in the knowledge vault to find out whether she is, or wait to see if she goes under the Tudor scope. Also, what's the best method of telling if someone is aware of their narcissism? It is to use the narc detector. Puss and Big Black Boots. Hello, HG. Hello, Puss and Big Black Boots. Thank you again for all your help through a very dark time for me. You're more than welcome. I have another question. Would the fuel be greater or lesser for an upper mid-range narcissist from a more wealthier but perhaps less attractive disengaged IPSS with higher narcissistic traits than from a less wealthy, more attractive empathic IPPS in disengagement? No. What you've got to think about is the fuel is made up of potency. A former IPPS is more potent than the current IPPS. But it's not just about the potency, it's about the amount and the frequency, so you need to take those matters into account. AK asks, is HG an investment banker? Is this a euphemistic insult that you're throwing my way? No, I am not an investment banker, but I do have interest in the financial world. Golden Bubble. Will the Prince of Wales be successful in implementing the Great Reset along with the World Economic Forum? If yes, what will be the impact to the plebes? If not, why will it fail? Well, this all revolves around the world of conspiracy theories, and I will be, in due course, doing videos about conspiracy theories and the people who believe them. Listen in. You'll have those little socks of yours blown right off. Bobka8209. So, let's assume karma does exist. Your narcissism wouldn't let you believe in it, no? No, I don't believe in it because it's a load of bollocks. Most people understand the concept of karma. They talk about, karma's going to get you, thinking that the narcissist will suddenly get run over by a car, or that all of a sudden they'll find themselves chained to a radiator for eternity, having to listen to Celine Dion, or James Corden pops round and puts his big fat sweaty arse and drops it onto their face. As I understand it, karma is that you have what you did in a past life visited upon you in the current life. Which means that all of you who suffered at our hands, what on earth were you doing last time around? Ever thought about that? You naughty, naughty people. But no, I don't believe in karma. I'll tell you why. It doesn't operate. And those that do, all you're doing is hanging on to hope, and hope is a false mistress. Rather than put your faith in some mystical concept that won't work, action is what's required. Do something. Implement no contact. Gain your revenge that way. Don't sit around thinking, goody gumdrops, karma's going to get the narcissist. Fuck the narcissist. Get on with your no contact regime. Or hire me to do them over. Azukina Rosas asks, hi HG, being cheap is a narcissistic behaviour. Well, it can be an indicator, but generally speaking, being a tightwad, having short arms and long pockets, or deep pockets rather, doesn't mean that someone is a narcissist, far from it. But it is an indicator because it exhibits a sense of entitlement. Azukina Rosas is back again. Hi HG, about alpha male, feminism, hypergamy. Hypergamy? What's that? And men going their own way. Do you think all of them are narcissists? What's your opinion about alpha males? Well, alpha males does describe a particular subschool of narcissists. Feminism, that in itself, it's a concept. So it can't be a narcissist, can it? It's a concept. Certain people who are feminists will be narcissists, but just because you're a feminist doesn't mean you're a narcissist. feminism will be hijacked by the narcissist for their purposes. Ditto men going their own way. MB. Hi HG, since all narcissists experience a victim mentality on a sliding scale, the ultra being at the opposite end, far, far away from those awful lower victims, sick face emoji, how does the victim mentality manifest with you? In what ways do you perceive yourself hard done to? Well, ordinarily I don't, because I'm hugely effective. And I don't sit around bemoaning the situation, I just get on and deal with things. But ultimately, logically, I have a victim approach because my narcissism will see that I am the one that is being hard done to in some form. For me, it manifests more in terms of recognizing that this person is threatening my control. So I don't sit around thinking to myself, oh, diddums, such and such as my life's gone to shit and the universe is against me and the world doesn't like me. That's for the mid-rangers. But rather the victim mentality that exists, albeit a much reduced state with me, appertains to the maintenance of the belief that the individuals that threaten my control are perpetrators of unnecessary actions against me, and therefore, because they're a perpetrator, that must mean that I'm a victim. But I don't remain a victim for long. Why? Because I assert control very, very quickly and very, very effectively. Base 1, HG, what is your qualification? For what? Building houses? Quantity surveying? Legal advice? Coming around and whopping your peasy ass? You need to put it in context, Base 1, although I know that you like to agitate. I've seen it in your other comments. I have you in my eye. Magic, learn to create with purpose. Interesting name. Hey HG, I can 100% agree to the drug addiction. My mother blamed me for that. She's an alcoholic and being broke constantly. Michelle Naidu, HG, can you tell me how old you are? Yes, and foreshadowed, of course, by yellow oi in a comment underneath. I'm old enough to know and young enough to do. Fiefs Manuel, I wonder what HG stands for. It stands for Holy Grail, the Hurt God, Hairy Gonads, and Huge Grant, apparently, if you listen to certain commentators. It stands for lots of different things. Chill often. No trouble getting partners, just no thing with any depth. Ew, black hole type. Thanks for that contribution. Puss and Big Black Boots, you're back again. Great video again, HG. I know. Enjoying your sense of humour. Thank you very much. My question for your next episode of Asked HG is, could you possibly do a video on post-traumatic stress disorder and how victims can deal with disengagement or escape better? I'm not sure if you mean that the two things go together, PTSD with regard to how you can deal with disengagement and escape, or whether you want me to do a video about PTSD and a separate video about how victims can deal with disengagement or escape better. Perhaps you could clarify, and then I can address it for you. Parish Alan Moore. Hello HG, what is narcissistic mortification? Never come across it. Can you please elaborate a little bit on it? Can you please help me? Help it make sense. I seem to get lost trying to understand the processes of narcissistic mortification. It's not something that I have come across. Therefore, I can't answer. Parish Alan Moore again. Mr. Tudor, I lied, little white lie between you and I, and be honest, you really have empathy, right, Mr. Tudor, because you know quite a bit about empaths. No. I'm very good at giving the appearance of empathy because of my cognitive empathy, because I observe, I listen, I scrutinize, and I analyze. For instance, I know a lot of information about certain financial instruments, but I'm not a stockbroker, nor am I a financial advisor. I know a lot about Stuart history in Britain, but I never lived back then. So you don't have to be something to understand it. It's important, however, that I understand it in depth, because it makes me not only hugely effective with regard to what I need to do in my day-to-day life, but also assists with regard to educating all of you. Brittany Kay, what is the best immediate response when someone, specifically a family member, says, "Do you think I'm a narcissist?" The real answer is yes, but does that person they ask tell them no and change the subject? What you should be asking me is, I realise that a family member is a narcissist. Why on earth am I continuing to engage them? And therefore, since you recognise that you are dealing with a narcissist, you shouldn't be interacting with them any further. You should be obeying the first golden rule of freedom, which is once you know, you go, you get out, and you stay out. MB. Hello, HG. Hello, MB. There was much optimism and excitement when you seduced and embedded the Shield Maiden over what was called the new dynamic, the first intimate partner primary source installed under the Ultra Awareness. I like to hear you speak to how, if this relationship has been different to the ones before. Each time I hear you, the IPPS will always be devalued. I wince. If I have an opportunity to make videos about that dynamic, I shall do so. Vesna VK. HG Tudor, thank you for your great work. You're welcome. This video is a tour de force. I agree. I've listened multiple times. I approve. I'm curious, what is the reason you created a new YouTube channel and stopped publishing on Knowing the Narcissist? Also, do you have any other YouTube channels? Well, I stopped on the other one because I wanted to have it was a combination of having a break from doing those videos and my attention was taken by other matters. And then I decided to come back to the platform and I thought to myself, I will create a new one and that I would create new material. I would revisit some of the older material and re-record it. Because when I did the original channel, much of the videos were recorded when I was traveling and basically in the middle of nowhere, bouncing around in the back of trucks and so forth, and the sound quality wasn't as good as it ought to have been. That's why often people asked if I was using voice changer. I wasn't. It was just the distortion of the shitty mic that was being used. But I took the view that the information was more important than how it sounded. However, now, me and my good friend, Big Black Mike, mean that you have the wonderful tones of HG in both your ears on a regular basis now. And that it is important to create a new channel to utilize a new platform for the purposes of engendering new followers, new people, to enable them to understand the dynamic and to, if you will, polish matters up also. So that was why I did it. Do I have any other YouTube channels? Yes, I do. There's Cooking with HG, also Crocheting Around the Clock with HG Tudor, and Teddy Bears, How to Stuff Them Properly. Carla Richardson. As well as the points you mentioned, I think a lot of people post their experiences as desperate for the validation that they were denied from the narcissist. They want to be told they're not as crazy as the narcissist made them feel, told them comfort, etc. I think your observation is entirely accurate. Samantha Martin. HG, I have another question. Would a narcissist issue a silent treatment as a means to make an appliance contact them after a long period of not speaking? If you're not speaking, you're already not engaging, therefore how could there be a silent treatment? Parish Alan Moore. Hi, Mr. Tudor. I have a question for you. Have you started devaluing your primary source yet? Or have you disengaged from your primary source yet? Inquiring minds want to know. Which primary source are you talking about? Current one or past ones? Alison. If you use and discard your lovers, what happens when you get old? You get older. It depends, of course, on the relevant narcissist. There is no concern of the narcissist because we will just draw somebody new in. Certain narcissists, however, their narcissism adapts. Not that they change school, but it alters in the sense that what it does is it causes them to be less harsh with regard to the assertion of control to secure the residual benefits. So, for example, a lower mid-range narcissist may not be as belligerent as he once was. It's still there, but toned down somewhat, because the narcissism recognizes that the individual could lose the intimate partner primary source when the narcissist perhaps is infirm and needs help, etc., with regard to the issues of medication, being looked after, all of those types of things. There's still potential, of course, to cause that individual to escape, and the bad behaviour doesn't stop. But this is where you get some narcissists who appear to mellow a little as they get older. But they don't become cured. They don't suddenly become better. The edge is taken off slightly of their behaviours as the narcissism compensates by dialing that down ever so slightly to avoid the risk, but can't completely extinguish it, of losing the intimate partner primary source, so they're kept in situ for more of the residual benefits. In a way, the narcissist starts to forego a bit of fuel in order to cater to the residual benefits. Other narcissists, the upper echelon ones, remain entirely effective with regard to their fuel matrices, and advancement of age isn't a problem. Brittany K, HG. Something that still baffles me is, how do you know so much about empaths? Well, I alluded to that in an earlier answer. I observe, I listen, I watch, I analyse, I scrutinise. With regard to the inner workings, I'm a very clever man. I've spent a long time around your kind and interact with empaths on a daily basis, either those in my real world, apart from when I'm completely away from individuals doing what I do in the wilderness, or as a consequence of my discussions assisting empaths, learning more about them to enable me to understand them even better, to help them further. Brittany comments, I know you've dated empaths your entire life, but you seem to know so much more than empaths know about themselves. Of course I do. That's because I don't suffer from emotional thinking, and often empaths don't see things about themselves because of their emotional thinking. Michelle Tohavaka, Liverpool, I think you mean Loserpool, or Man United? You mean manure? Neither, thank you very much. Veshna VK, HG Tudor, thank you for answering my question on episode 3. You're welcome. About what happens to the narcissist who runs out of fuel and cannot get any more. Also, thank you for talking about suicide in the video released yesterday. No problem at all. I was entangled for years with a narcissist in downward spirals such as you've described elsewhere. He was also an alcoholic, so there's comorbidity you've mentioned. And yeah, you cut him out. I found out about the suicide. I found out about the suicide 23 years later. Had I known, I'd been spared 25 years of worrying that he'd find me. Well, indeed. But what you ought not to have done was worried in the first place, because if you'd put in place a robust and rigid no-contact regime, Vesna VK, then you would have not had anything to worry about logically because the narcissist couldn't get to you, and you would have reduced your emotional thinking because your emotional thinking caters to fear. Want to understand more about that? Go to the Knowledge Vault and obtain Fear and the Empathic Victim. Selena Diaz, I'm an empath and I wear a lot of black. Bully for you. But is it Catholic black? Is it funereal black? Is it midnight black? Is it anthracite black? Inquiring minds need to know. Charlie Wilson, hi HG, my mum told me the night before I left to go back to school that she would send church magazine subscriptions to the school because she wants me to feel spiritual. She didn't ask me. Boundary transgression, sense of entitlement, because I know that your mother is a narcissist from work that I've done with you previously. I got an email informing me about the package. I want to open the magazine, but I also want to throw it away. I feel so anxious and angry at her. What do I do? Well, the receipt of this, of course, is a Hoover, and if you look at the magazine, it'll be a reminder of your mother, which is a breach of no contact, and therefore either use it as toilet paper or throw it away or set it on fire, and then you can implement your no contact regime. Anthony Fuckboy. Hello again, Mr. Tudor. Thank you for answering my last question. You're very welcome. You even pronounced my name right. Absolutely. AK. Dear HG, broadly, where do you ensnare your IPPSs? I ensnare them just above the belly button and below the breasts. Is that what you mean? The lasso goes round them there, and I give it a yank, and in they come. Michelle Divino, I refer all of your work, and I feel great to do so. Thank you. I don't know why you share. Probably money maybe. Well, if you go to the video, why am I doing this? You'll get all the answers there. I love your videos. Life-saving. Agreed. Triggering but needed. Agreed. Sometimes I have to take a break so I don't throw up. I see. Mind you, I suppose the ship is going through stormy water. Keep going and thank you. I shall. Amber Darlington. Virgo. OMG. The narc sign. No, it's not. It just happens to be my star sign and I'm a narcissist. Joanne McAvoy. How many different careers have you had? Have you changed jobs often? I've changed jobs frequently, but not for the reasons that you might think, but appertaining to what I do. It's part of the territory. Golden Bubble. What are the signs that a narcissist is also a psychopath? Do you have a video addressing that? No, but there's one in the pipeline, so you can wait to that and I'll save my breath today. Lighthouse 222222. HG, while reflecting of which you cannot do. Okay, that was an inauspicious start. I realise what a sad, empty life you have. Actually, I haven't. It's not empty in the slightest, and I'm not sad. You think it's sad and empty, but it's not. I'll tell you why. I'm a very busy man. I have a very attractive, intelligent, superb IPPS. I have many non-intimate secondary source friends. I'm a high achiever. I travel a lot, though less so this year because of COVID, and I've travelled more for professional reasons. I'm hugely effective. I play with people and it entertains me. I'm creating a huge legacy through my work here. So to describe my life as empty really doesn't make any logical sense. I sleep 4 or 5 hours a day because I'm so busy with all the things that I do, both professionally, privately, and through my work here. And what's sad about that? You label it as such because of the lack of real felt emotions. I do feel emotions. I've told you about this. No matter how many times, Lighthouse writes, no matter how many times narcissists draw fuel from others, they remain the true bottomless pit of emotionless existence. Wrong. We don't have an emotionless existence. We do have emotions, just different ones to you. But you're perfectly entitled to form that view that I have a sad, empty life. I'm perfectly entitled to form the view that you're a moron. So there we are. G, come on. Hello, HG. I have another question for you. What kind of narcissist do you think Orban Victor is? Sounds like something you use to put down your drains, doesn't it, if they're blocked? I'd really like to hear your opinion about him. My advice to you, get yourself to the Knowledge Vault and obtain Show Me Knowing the Narcissist, and then you can find out. Gabrielle Winter. Hello, HG. I already asked a question, but I have one more for the next episode. Can someone be narcissistic, not a narcissist with mid-range and lesser tendencies? If you're narcissistic, you are not a narcissist, therefore you can't be mid-range and you can't be lesser. You might engage in behaviours which are similar to those narcissists, but you're not a narcissist. Kitties are cute. Hi HG, could you elaborate on what it means to have reduced empathy and give examples of what would reduce empathy? I can, and in order to save my breath, go to the Knowledge Vault and obtain the Logic Bulletin, Why Am I Behaving Like a Narcissist? And that will tell you all about reduced empathy. Also, go to the Knowledge Vault and obtain Understanding Emotional Empathy, the difference between narcissist, normal, and empath. That'll tell you more there. Tic-tac-toe Dias. Lol, HG. You read my comment. I think I got a little fuel. Loved your comeback. Love from down under. G'day. Try another prawn on the barbie. Sparkles Diamond. My goodness, just got this in Australia. Thanks for the ringing of the bell. I went to school in the bush, and that reminds me, school in. Okay. Why was your school in a bush? Do you not have any buildings? Lisa, why do narcissists refer to themselves in the third person often? HG explains that it's out of grandiosity. Trisha K. Hi HG, thank you for answering my question. Thank you for all the videos you provide. You're very welcome, Trisha K. Ellie Cox, I love this. Brilliant. So you should. Kirsty Hesketh, thank you for answering my question, HG. I suspected as such, but it appears my emotional thinking was getting in the way. It often does. Impose no contact, reduce your emotional thinking. Rising Phoenix. Hi HG, what exactly does instinctive planned manipulation of the upper mid-range narcissist mean? It means that they operate through instinct, but they have an ability to plan to a small degree within that instinctive response. So, for example, there's a threat to their control occasioned by the primary source, and the narcissist, who is upper mid-range, reacts to that by organising a response that requires a little bit of planning. So let's take an example, and I'll try to be brief. Let's take narcissist, former intimate partner, primary source going through a divorce. He gets a letter from her lawyers saying, pay me X. That threatens his control. His narcissism says, former intimate partner, primary source has come up on the radar. She is not under control. You now need to assert control. The criteria are met for a direct assertion of control, i.e. a hoover. He drives round, goes to the house, and he knocks on the door. Let's say that he's a mid-range narcissist. No, let's start off with middle lesser narcissist. And he bangs on the door. Open the door, you fucking bitch. How dare you write this letter? The former IPPS is a keen student of the works of the magnificent H.G. Tudor, doesn't answer the door, sticks her headphones on. The narcissist is being wounded because she doesn't answer. He hammers on the door again, trying to assert control through this direct physical hoover. She doesn't answer. He then picks up a brick because his narcissism shifts from trying to assert control by knocking on the door to destruction of property, and he throws a brick through the window. The noise of that is loud enough to disturb the victim, and as a consequence of her surging emotional thinking, she responds and says, what the fuck do you think you're playing at? She's now given him fuel, and she's coming under control because a response has been provided. He then engages in a slanging match with her as he continues to assert control over her. All of his responses were instinctive, in the moment. Now the upper mid-ranger has received the letter. His control is threatened, his narcissism tells him to go round and effect a direct physical hoover in order to assert control over the former IPPS. He knocks on the door. She doesn't answer. He's wounded. The narcissism tells him, in his unconscious, to assert control again. He knocks on the door once more. She doesn't answer. He's wounded again. He knocks on the door once more. She doesn't answer. He's wounded again. At this point, the narcissism, with plummeting fuel levels occasioned by the wounding and the fact that control has not been asserted, tells the narcissist in his unconscious to abort, to back off. However, what it then suggests to him, because he's an upper mid-range, is that what he will do is, he won't, of course, put a brick through the window, because that is the heated, ignited fury response of the middle lesser, who is not able to assert much control at all over that ignited, heated fury. But the upper mid-ranger, what he then does is he contacts one of his goons, slips him a Benjamin to pop round and put one of the windows through in order to damage the property and assert control indirectly through this action. He plans the next steps as part of his instinctive response to asserting control arising out of the continued threat to his control occasioned by the wounding. So there's a small amount of planning occasioned within an instinctive response. Think of the instinctive response as the shell, and it surrounds a little bit of planning that goes within it. And that's what it is. Joanne McAvoy. Hello, HG. Episode 4 was awesome. Of course, you should have a channel called HGTV, perhaps. I would like to know how many intimate partner primary sources have you had up to this point? More than 30. How many times were you married? Once. Biker Girl 420, thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you, HG. You're very welcome. JJSS, can a narcissist fall under two categories? No. What's the difference between an elite narc and a cerebral narc? Go and read Sitting Target. Brittany K, can you do a video on why you think Obama is a narcissist? When I get around to it, yes. Catherine Positano, here's some fuel for you. I subscribed. Well, of course you should. Do you want a pat on the back for doing this? You should be subscribing. This works the best in the world and it'll unlock so many things for you. I should be sending you invoices to all of your homes, you know, for all of this. Chase Holmes, what are some of the best film fictional depictions of greater narcs you can think of? If you see in the movie There Will Be Blood, the main character seems like a lower greater to me. If you obtain the Shifty 50 and the Weighty 80, etc., that contains details about greater narcissists, which includes some film depictions, which will enable you to understand more and will enable me to save my breath. Elaine Bynes, Sam Vankin. Is this the same person as Sam Vaknin? Or is this somebody different now? Still doing videos on YouTube. So the information given to you was incorrect. Okay. Is my life meant to be richer for that? Tara Stewart, HG, after a mid-range narcissist starts to play Happy Families again, can this period last more than 2 years? No. PP. Aha, 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 aha. This is hilarious. HG, you sound especially annoyed with the commentary. Appreciate your time and efforts. Your work is brilliant. Yes, it is. DD Love. HG, now that you know what you are, do you still treat people in your life in a narcissistic way? Yes, I'm a narcissistic psychopath. It's what I am, it's what I do. Jacqueline Bly. Thank you for answering my question. I've seen many asking if a narcissist can upgrade school, and I know from you that they can't. Correct. I've also asked that question to myself, and that question arises due to the ability to control ignited fury. He used to show up a lot of temper in the beginning of the relationship, but what it seems to me, he learned to control it. What happened? No, you weren't provoking him as much. That's what was happening. JJSS. Is there a way to know for sure I'm no narcissist or I am one? Yes, use the empath detector. John E. Stewart. There are a whole lot more of you guys than there are of us. No, there isn't actually. There are more empaths than there are narcissists. Elena Jones. One more question, HG. As the IPPS, is there always a replacement waiting in the background? No. Often, yes, but not always. Puss in Big Black Boots. Question. Why do they, I assume you mean the narcissists, always argue and fight when they devalue and start to disengage and say, I can't stand all the fighting? Well, that's because it provokes you, and it's part of their belief that they can't stand the fighting because they're the victim. You're the one that causes the problem. Of course, the narcissist is the one that starts the fighting, but the narcissism causes them to believe that you did. Because of the narcissistic perspective, makes the narcissist believe that they're the victim and that you are the one that is antagonizing them. Halo, thank you for your work. It's so good. I know, and you're welcome. My question, would narcissists be happy for their victim to have only internal orgasms? Or do you need the external orgasms as your victim to feed on? With internal orgasms, the victim would not be depleted from energy, so narcissists could not inhale it. What? Are these orgasms that Bill Clinton is near, and he doesn't inhale them? And if narcissists would be able to also have non-ejaculatory orgasms, or do you think the release that comes from external orgasm? I think what you're trying to ask me is, if somebody has an orgasm but doesn't show that they're having one, is that much use to the narcissist? The answer is no. But of course, a lot of the time you can't help but ooh and ah, and your chest flushes and your eyes dilate, and you shake your head back and forth and your nails dig into our backs, etc. So we do know that you're having an orgasm. Angela Aguilar. Laugh my arse off. Ooh, look at you. I could listen to you all day. Well, why don't you? What's stopping you? Nothing. Carry on. Caroline Gale. Oh, I can't start laughing. You should write for old school radio how it used to be. Fabulous. Indeed. Winter Rose. Hello, HG. Wouldn't your voice put your identity at risk to people who know you? No. For instance, somebody's just written underneath Golden Bubble. I've wondered this myself. His accent sounds very Yorkshire. Well, I'm not from Yorkshire, so there you are. And I do make very slight changes to my accent so that if somebody did hear, they wouldn't necessarily realise that it's me. First of all, many people who know me wouldn't be listening to this in the first place. If they happen to come across it, they might think, hang on a second, that sounds a little bit like my real name. And then they think, no, it couldn't be. Nobody has listened to this and come up to me in my own real life and said, hey, X, are you HG Tudor? It doesn't concern me. I don't believe for a moment that my voice would put my identity at risk because, as I say, I make slight alterations with regard to my accent What you hear is the way that I generally talk in terms of the depth of my voice and overall pronunciation, but I make some very subtle and slight changes to throw people off the scent. And also, I'm very adept at hiding who I am. I simply don't exist. Space Coast Girl. Hello, HG. I was wondering. You said that empaths have some narcissistic traits. I did, and they do. Do empaths ever go over to the dark side and become narcissists? No. Jennifer El Masri. Did you just say you killed somebody? No, I said that empaths don't become narcissists. Latanya Gardner. Imagine that, sat there listening to this voice, HG. Sounds like you're having fun in your world. Cristalia Antonio. HG, will you ever reveal yourself to us? I mean your face. Why? Why do you need to know what I look like? It's about the information, not about knowing what I look like. And besides, you wouldn't be able to handle it, you naughty scamp. Chucky Cool. You have me in stitches, HG. Well, mess with me and that's what happens. Kitties are cute. HG, you said that in your experience about 1 in 6 people have NPD. I did. In your experience, what percentage of abusive relationships are an empath with a narc? Nearly all of them. A normal with a narc, less so, and a narc with another narc, less so. Percentage-wise, 75 empath, probably 5% normal, and the balance is narc-on-narc action, roughly. Narc injury, 1 hour and a half. 1 hour and a half. Oh my God, you're quite patient for a narc. No, it's all about me. I could do this all day. But I have other things to do. I have to bake 2 empaths for dinner. Pour the crumble over the top. Very tasty. And there are all my other machinations that I need to attend to. Miss J. HG, why does the narcissist ditch an IPPS upon arrival when they attend a social event together? Isolation, triangulation with other people, is devaluing behaviours, done out of a sense of entitlement and a lack of emotional empathy. G. Marie behind the mask. I've also killed. Do tell. No. It's occurred, but I don't need to go into the detail. Lilith Liberated. Dear HG, I'm very interested in seeing your take on borderline personality disorder. Lucky for you, you will have already embraced the video, The Borderline, and if you haven't, what are you waiting for? Riverman, thank you for your legacy work, HG. You're welcome. I have questions about ultras. Are ultras a synonym for upper greater narcissists? No, they're above upper greater. Have you ever personally entangled with another ultra? Only one time when I was trying to change the duvet and I got kind of stuck inside of it, so I was fighting against myself. As if I change a duvet cover, come on. If you have, do you know any sidestep one another? Well, I haven't entangled with another ultra because there's only me. And have I entangled with an upper greater narcissist? I have done. And do we know any sidestep one another? It wasn't so much of an entanglement, but it's rather like 2 sharks passing one another with a nod, recognising one another, and there we are. Axum Balai. Hi HG, I must say you have potential. Well, thanks, Dad. That's really kind of you. Green Diamond Girl. Hello HG, a rather personal question here. Why did you get married? Because it suited the purposes of control, character traits, residual benefits, and fuel, of course, the pursuit of the prime aims. In particular, it was to do with something appertaining to my work and the access to necessary information. Why did you get divorced? The IPPS let me down. Yellow Oi, you're so mean for not answering my question. Terrible, huh? Anybody would think that I was a narcissistic psychopath. Rachel B, I'm very interested in the Borderline video. Well, it's out there. Tom Muggeridge. Question. When watching movies and TV shows, can you or do you identify characters as narcissists? All the time. Of course, television narcissists are a little bit different. They're not always absolutely on the money, Some are very good representations, but you have to be careful because remember, it's being written for entertainment and isn't always an accurate representation. Lilith Liberated. Oh goodness. Every time I listen to you, I have more things to ask. That's how it works. I'm very interesting, and this subject is very interesting, and there's a lot to ask about it. I find it a bit terrifying that you admit to having killed. Why? I'm just being honest with you. That's what's happened. And you're not going to die by my hand, unless you cause me a problem. And you're not going to do that, are you, Lilith? In actual fact, the fact that I've done what I've done makes the world safer for people like you. I'm one of the rough men that do things to enable you to sleep in bed safely at night. Do you have advice for not being murdered by a narcissist? Yes, stay away from them. Brittany K. Is it safe to assume that because creators know what they are, they can be better at hiding aspects of their narcissism to their intimate partners? You nailed it. Dear beloved, it's obvious, even if you did reveal your identity, you wouldn't lack for appliances, correct? Look at the people who swoon over you in the comments knowing what you are. Exactly. Now, some people do so because it's almost a little bit of fun. They know they're never going to meet me, and it feels safe. I am a disembodied voice at the other end of the internet, and they're never going to meet me. So it's a little bit of a sort of silly crush, but is appreciated nevertheless. In other instances, it just arises out of people who are extremely grateful for being given access to my brilliant information and also the humour, and they're entertained along the way. They're dealing with very difficult and dark episodes in their life, and my information enables them to achieve freedom, so they're extremely grateful. There are some that swoon, and there are some that swoon who are narcissists. And it's more than the swooning. They then attempt to seduce me, emailing me, throwing themselves at me, trying to seduce me to assert control over me. There aren't very many of them that fall into that category. The ones that swoon are generally, they're just having a little bit of fun. I see it for what it is. Of course, it is a product of emotional thinking, but a lot of it is just born out of gratitude. And those people wouldn't seriously come anywhere near me. Indeed, if they were walking along the street and I wandered up behind them and said, "Hello, I'm HG," they would probably shit themselves rather than want to spend any time with me at all. Tom Muggeridge, question. Are there sub-schools of the greater narcissist? Yes, there's lower greater, middle greater, upper greater. If so, what are they? Just answered that, and what are the differences between them? Very broadly speaking, lower graders tend to be more aggressive. Middle graders tend to be very expansive in terms of fame, often pop stars, people who engage in a lot of philanthropy, showmanship. And upper graders tend to be particular types of politicians, those that operate as eminence greases, those that are often not famous, but are extremely powerful in terms of reach and effect. If you want to get more examples of that, you can obtain the Narcissist and COVID-19 interviews, and that will give you more examples of some of the differences, not just across the graders, but at the other sub-schools. It's very interesting. You'll find that in the Knowledge Vault. Aquarella, I always listen to you with my headphones. Don't want to miss a crumb. Well-trained empath. Well done. Tom Muggeridge, another question. Why do you love photos of people in the anonymous masks to use as backgrounds in your videos? Who says I love them? I just use them. Parish Alan Moore, if we're not careful, Mr. Tudor is going to have us all addicted to his videos with his salami slicing. LOL. No, it's all about providing you with information, education, and some entertainment along the way. Ilana Jones, HG, as I'm sure we all noticed and appreciated your statement towards the end of the video about Narcissist being taken out back and shot, can you expand on where that hostility towards the mid-range comes from? Yes, they're cowardly scum. Just because they're narcissists, I have no affinity towards them. I am set apart in a class of one. They're cowards. They're miserable, walnut-balled, shriveled, testicled wankers. Crybabies. Overly aggressive who think they're far superior to what they are. intermittent facade operating lower mid-ranges, a crybaby middle mid-range type B, wah, wah, the anodyne, weak as piss lager, middle range type A, or the, oh, I'm so helpful and I only meant to try and help and they thought I was interfering, middle ranger type A, overwhelming angels, and the haughty, stuffy, think they're graders but they're not, upper mid-rangers. All of them. I detest them. Lessers, they're fools, they're village idiots. Wrecking balls of one form or another, either a glittery bauble that's the upper lesser type A, or the wrecking upper lesser type B, or the chainsaw wielding, sledgehammer wielding lower lessers and middle lessers. They're thick as pig shit, the lower lessers and the middle lessers. No time for them. Upper lesser A and B, I find them kind of amusing in a way. And they can be quite clever, but not always. Certainly not as clever as I. But the mid-rangers, it's this lack of awareness. I know the lessers have no awareness, but they're almost like just Labradors running around, sniffing other dogs' arseholes, pissing wherever they go. Oh, a butterfly. No, now I'll go and chase a hedgehog. Mid-rangers, they think that they're decent people. Lessers don't. They just get on with it. But mid-rangers, they think that they're decent people. They think that they're empaths. And they act butthurt when you put them in the place. And they really do need dragging out the back, having the barrel of a gun shoved into those mewling mouths, and the trigger having been pulled. I think that I've got the message across there. Yeah, good. On that theme, Phoenix Gem will no doubt be needing to change her underwear because she'll have wet herself because she says, "Oh, HG, the way you always disparage the mid-rangers makes me laugh." Did you laugh until you weed, though? That's the question. And there we are. We're ending on a note of urine. Those are as many questions as I'm going to cover. Thank you, as always, for contributing them. Thank you for listening. This has been another episode of Ask HG. You know what to do. If you've got any questions, put them in the comments and I'll get through as many as I can the next time that I do this. When that will be, we shall have to see. But I will always address them ultimately. Remember again, subscribe to me, like this video, share my work as far and wide as you possibly can. I very much appreciate you doing. And remember, this is the best source for information that you'll ever receive about narcissists, narcissism, empaths, and the dynamic between them all. All it remains for me to say is, I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.